Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kaylina, and I have an exciting video today that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. I think it is going to be incredibly relevant for our time that we're in right now, and it probably feels like the world is in chaos right now, depending on where you're standing, because there's a lot of very high energies going on right now there's this like kind of spiritual energetic battle I feel like going on, and then you've got the powers at be, such as like the government and all the craziness that's happening there, and even some of the religious stuff, and all of it is combining into this one big, very overwhelming time to be a human. But I feel like this video is going to hopefully maybe clear some things up, help relax some of those tensions. So let's get started. So I decided to read the book Frequency, or I'm in the process of reading it. I'm doing this video like chapter by chapter and piecing it together because it's just easier for my goldfish brain to work like that. So this book is by Penney Peirce, and I've had this book for a while, but I just haven't picked it up because I guess it wasn't the time to read it. But now is very much the time to read it, and already within the first chapter, just things make so much sense. Some of the overwhelming things that I have been feeling and have been going through in life, clearing out some crap still energetically. There's a reason for that. So if you have also been going through kind of this very rough time period in life and things just seem to be going really wrong, or you're just really kind of struggling, there's a reason for it. So I am going to go over this first section, and I wanted to start out with one of the quotes that she wrote in the book from M. Scott Peck. It says, "The truth is that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers." And I feel like that is very, very true. If you look back in your life to any amount of moments and you were having just a really hard, difficult time, you probably look back after the fact and realize those moments almost had to happen, because as a human race, we tend to be rather stubborn. We like comfort. We like familiarity. So sometimes we will stay in the same familiar environment, even if it is breaking us down and hurting us. So that's when our guides, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, gives us a little nudge, or sometimes a big old shove off a cliff in some cases, so that it forces you to change, because things will continually be uncomfortable until you progress to your next stage where you're supposed to be in life. We're not meant to stay in one place. We're meant to walk the long road that sometimes seems really intimidating and scary, because odds are there's something really awesome and wonderful waiting for us on the other side of it. And I find that very true in my own life. Every time something has been really painful or uncomfortable to go through, it's usually because I am suppressing moving forward in my life. So I totally understand. Everybody does it. So there's probably a really good reason that you are feeling maybe a bit shooken up right now, maybe very ultra sensitive. That's something I'm personally going through right now, where it literally feels like my body is this homing tower, and just like all the sensations of being like a normal human, like the senses and stuff, they're like way and heightened. So like there's times I go outside and the sun is like too bright, or there's some places I'll go where the lighting is too bright or the noise is too much, and it's like this radio is turned up really, really high, and I like cannot figure out how to turn it back down. And with fibromyalgia, that can already happen a little bit, but now that these energies are shifting and things are really kind of changing, I'm feeling it even more. And I really, really have to remind myself to stay grounded, because otherwise there are days where it's just like you want to be in a little hidey hole because everything is just like too much. And I had a day like that. It wasn't yesterday, but the day before that. And it was, we had experienced too many draining energies throughout the day. And it was getting to the point where I was like repressing anger and stuff from not even like just myself, but other energies around me. And I was like, oh dang, okay. And so fortunately, one of my coworkers, she helped clear some stuff out and gave me some information that I really needed to hear. And so that was immensely helpful. And I'm very grateful she did that for me, because we were on tilt. Like, and I haven't been like that, kind of like felt that angry in a while, but I mean, so if you're feeling this stuff, it's normal. Like, I know normal, that sounds like a weird choice of words, but for what's going on energetically in the universe right now, it's normal. So just try your best to find really grounding activities, going out in nature, especially now that the weather is starting to get nice. Ground yourself, hug a tree, like anything. Listen to calming music, just move, get your body moving. There's other techniques too that you can use, and I think she's gonna talk about some in the book too that I'll probably share as well. But it's an interesting time to be alive, guys. I'm probably gonna say that multiple times throughout the video, but supposedly we're about to ascend. I can't tell you when that's going to happen. I don't have that knowledge. I don't think anybody truly has that knowledge. But if you do look closely, you can start to see changes happening. So, and yeah, it seems like the world is kind of in chaos right now. So it's like, how could we possibly be ready to like ascend to a higher evolution? But I mean, we've been talking about the age of Aquarius, and there's a couple other names that people give it as well, for a while. She kind of calls it like the age of intuition, which I kind of like, because it is like we are evolving upwards. So we're going to start to really embrace those psychic abilities. We're going to be able to start seeing things, start being able to manifest things like super easily. And like our whole system is kind of breaking down. So our 3D world is meshing with the 4D world. And so there's going to be massive changes, and our bodies are going from like carbon to crystalline. So, and I don't know officially when all of this is going to happen. Supposedly it's any time now, but I'm not a realistic person who's just like, okay, I'm psyched for it. I'm excited if that's gonna happen. Don't get me wrong, I would love to live in a space that's more like heaven on earth, so to speak. But I'm gonna continue to live my life until that day comes. And hopefully my guides will give me a warning when it's here, because throughout time you see plenty of like end of the world scares where it's like, oh, it's coming to an end, and obviously we wake up the next day and everything is fine and dandy. So this to a lot of people would feel kind of similar to that. So I'm trying to be like logical and realistic, because some people are gonna be instantly turned off by the thought of that, and I totally understand, I totally get it. But anyway, but since I am feeling so much of the same things, I do know there's something coming. There's a huge energetic shift that is happening and that is coming. So that I do personally believe in. Obviously, in any video that I make or any other creator makes, take what you like, leave what you don't. You can believe absolutely whatever you want, and there is nothing wrong with that. So this process is going to be fairly rapid, but at the same time, there's like a delicateness about it, I guess, because from what my other more in-tuned friends have said is that if we evolve too fast at like one time, it'll like be too much. Kind of like that scene in Indiana Jones, where the Russian lady confronts the aliens and she just wants all the world's knowledge all at once instead of taking it a little bit at a time because she was greedy. And then what happened? She imploded. So they don't want that to happen to us, obviously. We're meant to evolve, but we can't do it just like instantaneously because we'd probably implode. So it's happening fairly fast, but at the same time slow. So lots of contradicting kind of opposites, but we live in duality. So these things can both exist at the same time. It's very complicated, but true. So this is going to be a very personal and societal transformation. You're going to be experiencing lots of transformation in your own personal life. And I mean, all you have to do is look at the news right now, which I don't recommend. I mean, I recommend being educated, but at the same time, not just allowing it to consume you, because the news is a very dark, deep place full of just not great people. So, and you don't want to constantly be giving your energy to stuff like that, because guess what? We are in good hands. Our higher ups are watching out for us. So whatever is going on religiously, governmental wise, it's all going to be sorted out. We just have to have some trust. I know things are really chaotic right now, and trust me, I'm as enraged as the rest of you about some of the stuff that is going on, because it's not okay. But that is those higher up powers, not like our good powers that are watching out for us, but the powers at B that control everything and everyone. It's their last kind of hoorah before their whole system collapses. So yes, they're going to be pushing things. They're going to be trying to bring back old ways. But as you will hear in these phases, those old ways aren't going to work anymore. They're going to collapse. History cannot continually repeat itself, because we have reached the end where we're meant to go higher. So these governmental systems, they're not going to be a thing at some point. We just have to have a little bit of trust, and we as a collective have to try our very best to stay calm through all this, because the more we resist and the more we push, the harder it is for us to get to where we're supposed to be. So I know that's really hard, because if you're like me, we like to control things, we like to have a handle on things, we like to know what's going on. This is the time where we really have to try to let go. And I'm not saying don't fight for what is right, because I'm right there with you. Like, if we need to protest on the streets, I will be there. But at the same time, knowing where to draw that boundary, because otherwise we're just gonna fall into their little trap, and that's exactly what they want. So, and I know some of this sounds like major conspiracy theory, and I'm not trying to make it sound like that, but anyway. So, if you're really tuned in, you know what's going on probably already. You can already feel this stuff. You already probably kind of understand it. If you are in tune with your guides, like, they're probably talking to you about this shit. Like, and even the people that aren't in tune, I bet you could ask anybody and they just have this feeling that something is right on the horizon, something is right around the bend, that something is like coming. And a lot of the times it does feel like this kind of doom kind of situation, like, oh my gosh, we're not going to make it kind of thing. But that's the fear and the ego speaking. And so once we kind of push those out of the way and calm our ego down, then we can start seeing kind of the positives that are going to be evolving out of all of this. And I know that's hard to see right now. Like, I really do understand that. Because this time is going to be really challenging, really hard, because old traumas that haven't been officially healed, or we thought we've healed, and then all of a sudden it's popping up again in like strange ways. For instance, like, I had to somewhat interact with my ex-husband the other day, and I was like, hey, I actually handled myself a lot better this go around. Like, I think we finally are clearing out that energy of just being like, he's not worth the energy, so we need to let it go. Because we did handle ourselves better than we have in the past. So, old things that you didn't want to face, that maybe we just kind of shoved down a little bit because, you know, it's just easier that way, those things are going to come back up, and you're going to have to actually face them, and you're going to have to actually heal them this go around. Which inevitably is a good thing. We gotta heal from our wounds. Yes, there's lessons that we learned from them, and some of them are really painful and awful to go through. Like, I'm not denying that. But when they come up again, it's time to let go of them. clear it out. It's just helping us get to a place where we can ascend or evolve. So supposedly there are 9 different phases that she kind of put together that we will all go through at various degrees of quickness. So we're going to go through that. So phase 1, our 3D world begins to mesh with the 4D. So we're getting glimpses and becoming curious about it. I can't tell you how many people now we see coming into the store that are just like walk in with this kind of look of confusion, like, I don't really know why I'm here, but I'm drawn to being here. And we're like, that's the collective energies, like getting you ready for this big spiritual jump that everybody is going to be experiencing. So if you're feeling that as well, or most likely if you're watching my video, you're already in this world, but that's what's happening. So even like if you have friends or family members who have never wanted anything to do with not just like witchcraft and occult, but just spirituality in general, or they have just curiosities about that kind of big umbrella realm of metaphysical, that's what's happening, and it's happening more now than ever. The veil between kind of that world and our world is nearly non-existent. Like, people that even aren't super in tune are having supernatural experiences because the veil is just breaking down and so thin. And for the people that can see it, which I don't know if I can or not, because I see things in vibratory states. So they say that everything is energy and everything is just particles. There are times if I focus, I can see everything vibrating, just everything, like a bunch of little speckles just vibrating all over the place. So I feel like that is our kind of our matrix that we're in, so to speak. And again, this is going to sound super out there, but the more and more I've kind of started learning about it, the more and more it really does make sense. And I know I probably sound like a nutcase to some people, but like when you start like thinking about it and learning about it, and it's makes some sense. And it is kind of creepy, but it makes some sense. So anyway, that veil is super thin. You might start seeing spirits, you might start seeing ghosts, you know, like it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Now, most of the time, your spirit team is going to help you out here, because obviously if you've never experienced a spirit before and all of a sudden they just come straight on, you know, showing up at the end of your bed at night or showing up in your dreams, that might really scare you. So they know how best to approach this to help ease you into this transformation. They're not just going to start throwing things that you can't handle at you, because that wouldn't do anybody any good. So overall in this stage, there's definitely going to be a more connection between like your soul, your mind, your body, and that connection is going to be really important moving forward, making sure everything's starting to be in alignment. So phase 2, your body becomes more sensitive and you have really high highs and really low lows, which is probably what I experienced the other day when I said I was just really, really angry, and like we were like bottled up, like really, really angry. But there was no reason to be angry. But as I've also learned, if you're an empath, you're taking in emotions from everybody around you. As an empath, your job is kind of to transmute some of those negative energies into ones of love and higher purpose. So, but at the same time, it's sometimes hard because you're storing all of that inside your body and you're feeling all the feelings. And now that we are shifting and I'm starting to try to really be in tune with stuff, I am beginning to start to feel physical pain from other people. Whereas before it was more emotional for me, like I could definitely feel the emotional stuff. Now I'm feeling the physical stuff with my clients. Like for instance, I had a woman come in the other day, she was having thumb problems and she admitted that to me, and so I was like, okay. And then the minute I touched her thumb, I kid you not, I started having a pulsing, radiating sensation in my own thumb. And I was like, Well, this is new. I haven't experienced this before. Sometimes I can experience it with my own twin sister, but obviously we're bonded. Like we're connected more so than other people, I would say. But this was the first time I started actually feeling it in my own body. So, which is helpful as an empath, because then you can go in there and you know how to help them better. But at the same time, ow, I don't want to feel everybody else's pain. But that's what we get. That's my role to play, and everybody has their roles to play too in this. You know, there's our leaders, there's our, you know, our influencers, we have our empaths, we have our light workers. Like, all of you are special in your own ways, and you might either know what you are already, or you might be discovering who you are as we move forward, and which is super cool. Super cool. Everyone's got like this magic inside of them, and that they can use to help and heal and make the world a better place. So I'm not complaining. Yes, sometimes being an empath sucks. If you're an empath, you know, like you just know. It is not always easy, because you're taking everything in from everybody. And as a massage therapist, I'm literally touching and having that interaction and that transaction with people pretty much on the daily. And some people come in with some heavy stuff that you're just like, all of a sudden you'll be fine, and then you're just like devastatingly sad and like you want to cry. So it's like, yeah. But it also makes you so much more connected and realizing that everybody is going through something, and it just makes you more compassionate overall. So in this phase, you may also start feeling like you're just getting some general anxiety, and like your heart is almost skipping beats at times. Now, obviously, some of these symptoms, yes, while there is a spiritual, energetic side, if you are experiencing these symptoms, please don't just be like, well, we're evolving, so it's fine. If you are having some of these major symptoms, because some of these are major symptoms, please go to the doctor, get some help. Like, don't just be like, it'll pass. Because in some of these phases, there's more death that's being experienced. There's more general symptoms of like cancer and stuff that are popping up. And that's not to scare people. It's just like when you're clearing out energies, when you have dis-ease, which is disease, that's like your body not being in homeostasis. It's your body hanging on to things. It's your body not operating at its full energetic levels. So that manifests symptoms. So as we're clearing out all this stuff, more of this stuff is arising and happening, because it's like a faster process. So that's why some people are experiencing more just overall sickness. They're having family members that are just like dropping like flies. Like, it's an intense time, and it's going to be an emotional ride. But once we get through this, we're going to experience ultimate love, ultimate joy, ultimate motivation and enthusiasm for what's coming next. Like, all this hardness is going to go away. So we just have to get through it. You may also feel just more warm and hyper. The warmness is definitely true for me. You tend to just feel more like electrical, like you just, this is like this current that's going through you. And you tend to be more sensitive to crowds and allergens and certain foods or media. And oh my gosh, this is so true for me. My body cannot stay in homeostasis. It seems like it just takes the littlest thing to like get my body out of whack right now. So if you're experiencing that, that is part of this process, as unfun as it is. Body aches and shakiness, nervousness, tired but you can't sleep. And anything that you want, you like want it right this very second. And I am definitely feeling that as well, which we've always had a patience problem. Like, patience is not our thing as a Virgo. We always want it right now, but now that like sensation and feeling like I have to accomplish all of life's missions, like right this second, that is something I'm definitely feeling. Like with this book stuff, I'm like, okay, we gotta have it like done now. Like, but that's kind of these energies making us feel that way. You could also have kind of short attention span at the same time, which is not helpful when you feel like you have to have everything done right now, because then at the same time you have the opposite feeling of, well, I have an attention span that lasts like 5 seconds. So, or memory loss too. You could have things of memory loss and your motivation is lacking and you just have this kind of disorientation going on. So you have the two things colliding at once and it makes it really hard to even operate as a human being right now. Super fun, right? You may feel sick more than usual with exhaustion and irritability and like hyperactivity. So more like overactive diseases, like if your body is overactive, these things can like manifest, are things like the cancer virus and fevers, infections, rashes that suddenly appear, allergies, ADHD, and nerve disorders. And I already have like neurological stuff that I've had since I was young. So these things sometimes do pop up more where I just feel like the way my nervous system is working, it just gets very overwhelmed very easily and very fast right now. My sister, on the other hand, she's got like the ADHD stuff. So she's like, talk about like workaholic and like kind of once she gets her mind set on something, it has to happen right then and there. So she's got that side of it. So if you're experiencing any of these, just know it's part of the energy stuff. But if we do our very best to ride through some of this more naturally, or the best that we can, we're gonna feel more vitality. We're gonna have better endurance, greater awareness and enthusiasm, inspiration, forgiveness, and healing. So in phase 3, this phase is not going to be easy either. Be ready to confront your shadow side. Be ready to face that darkness and make friends with your demons, because now is the time to do that. Things you haven't healed from are going to show up again in this phase, and it can literally flip your life like upside down. Like when you draw that Tower card in the tarot, that's like this phase. Like everything's gonna be changing. Everything's gonna be not how it once was. You're gonna have to let things go. You're gonna have to face things. Not a super enjoyable time. And you may feel like you're just going a bit crazy. Oh my God, my cat is trying so hard to like get in front of the camera and do his thing. And I'm like, stop, just stay. Okay, so in this phase, you may experience very intense dreams, experience just pessimism or a general sense of dread, and dualistic thinking, like very, very extreme opposites. Kind of like with the war that we see with the patriarchy versus the feminism right now. Like it's very much kind of opposing sides. You get some people that absolutely hate women. You have people that absolutely hate men. And it's like this very, very opposite, negative, dualistic approach of oppositions. And that could be applied to anything. I just happen to see that one really in the world today, where you see literally anytime you go on Instagram or Facebook, there's these videos of, you know, a general sense of like the dating realm is in pieces right now. Nobody knows how to communicate. Nobody knows how to have a relationship, because we're all just feeling these energies very highly, and so we don't know how to sort them out. And yes, do I 120,000% agree that some of this patriarchal bullshit needs to fall? Absolutely. As a woman, yes, naturally I'm going to feel that way, because we've been treated unfairly since the beginning of time. And honestly, that goes for anybody that isn't, you know, pretty much a white male. So it's like, yeah, things need to change. Things need to change. And we are seeing some of this bullshit that's popping up in the feminine realm of the abortion stuff, and like slowly trying to take our rights away. It's not going to happen. We're not going to allow it to happen, because our ancestors and women in arms all those years ago did not sacrifice what they sacrificed to get us this far for us to go backwards. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, overall, huge opposing forces, opposite viewpoints to the extremes is something that you could experience here. You could also just be in a stage where you just kind of feel like you're seeing the negative in everybody, and that'll pass. That's gonna pass. But also, like, before, I really had a problem with the whole mirror concept of everybody we meet in our life is kind of a reflection of us. And I don't know if I completely 100% agree with it, but I do agree with it a little bit more than I used to, because before I was like, no, because I've met some truly awful people and there is no way some of that is in me. But looking back, there might, maybe not the entire person as a whole, but some of the traits that I saw in others, if I look back, some of them probably were in me. And so yes and no. But in this stage, we tend to see the negative in others, but don't really want to look in the mirror and face our own inner demons. But this is going to be the stage that you're going to be forced to do that. And I do find it very true that you attract the people that you yourself, your energy is at. So if your energy is high and motivated and like enthusiastic for life, those are going to be the kinds of people that you draw around you, because those are the kind of people that are going to want to be around you. They're going to be attracted to you. If you're always complaining about every little freaking thing in your life, you are going to get every Debbie Downer, every rain cloud that exists, because they're going to be drawn to your energy as well. So then it's like, why is my life never getting better? Well, because you're just staying in that one place. And I'm not saying we don't all have downtimes, because we do. I went through like a couple years, you want the truth, I went through like 6 years of being completely depressed and broken down, and we lived in that space for a long time, and we had those negative people that we surrounded ourselves with. And then eventually, when the time is right, you almost get this nudge like, okay, it's time to move forward. It's time to create something better for ourselves. And so there's no shame throwing at all, because I know what it's like to be in that place, and it can be really hard to dig yourself out. But it is true. We attract what we are. So just be mindful of that. Who are you wanting to attract into your life? And it's not to say we don't have bad days. It's not to say we don't have some anger here and there, or that we treat everybody absolutely perfectly. We're human, living a human experience right now. And that's why I don't like toxic positivity, because yes, we are spiritual souls. We're meant to have this abundance of love and, you know, be able to create and build amazing epic things. But while we're here in this 3D world, and while it's still breaking down, all these emotions and things very much exist, and we can't discount them, because they are also part of a human experience. So phase 4, your ego is going to try to take the reins, which most of the time, the ego is very comfortable taking the reins. It's our survival mechanism. So anytime it feels threatened, it is going to come into play. So any kind of fear that's ruling your life, any kind of, you know, the ego is kind of all about that fight and flight. So it's like, okay, our body feels like it's in danger, our ego steps in to try to protect us. But in this stage, we've got to talk to our ego and be like, hey, listen, I understand you've kept me alive for this long, and I appreciate you, but we're going to have to step down a little bit, okay? We're going to have to move down a little bit. We're going to have to be okay with that. You're going to have to trust that we're not going to, like, die tomorrow. So it's all about kind of letting go somewhat, which is really hard for some of us, including me. So you're most likely going to experience either the fight or flight mode in this phase. And this comes from just the natural survival of your ego, like I said. If you're a fighter, these may be the tendencies that you have. You may go to drinking tons of coffee. You may be a workaholic. You may have like a very rugged individualism that is activated here, like patriotism all the way. self-righteousness. You might be a bit boastful and narcissistic here. And this is just because your ego has to like inflate itself so that it feels like it's important and that it's surviving and that it can stand on its own and that sometimes it's better than everybody else. Don't mind my cat destroying something over there. Because the ego has to feel safe and protected. So by inflating ourselves, sometimes that's how we do that. You can also be enraged in like violence here just because you feel threatened and so you have to assert yourself in that way. You might want fame and power and to control everything and everyone. Take, for instance, our governments or even some religions. Like, they have to have their boot on everybody's throat because if they lose their power, then they feel like they have no control. And that is very, very, very much something that we are facing in our world today. We've always faced it, but now it's becoming very, very clear. So, and we're starting to fight against that. And obviously we're going to try and do it in a positive way, but those very stifling ways need to come to an end. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second there. On the opposite side, if you're more of a, hey, we don't want to get involved in all this, so I'm gonna go kind of personalities, you're going to want to hide away and avoid conflicts. So this is our Libras, and some of our other signs that are less confrontational. They're like, hey, I don't really like fighting. It makes me feel yucky, so we're just gonna go. In this area, you might tend to not eat enough, or you might eat too much. You might see some weight fluctuation happening. You might want to go back and retreat into like the safety of a parent's home just because it's familiar, it's safe. You've known these people since birth, so it's like a comforting kind of thing. And you may just try to like want to numb yourself with audio and video. And yes, that is a thing. Everybody has those little earbuds in their ears all the time now. Even in the grocery store, I'm guilty of it. You just kind of want to go in, you want to ignore the world. And sometimes that helps me block out the energies as well, because I'm not hyper-focusing on the person next to me that looks like they're about to, break down and cry, or the person across from me who's wearing a scowl that looks like they could murder somebody. You're just tuning into your music and doing your thing and then getting out. I'm seeing this kind of with the romantasy book phase right now too, because that is very much an escape. It's diving into this fantasy world where, even though I don't always, no shame on romantasy writers, because you guys can write stuff that I could probably never write, but we're seeing that we're in love with a fantasy realm, a fantasy characters that don't exist. And so it's taking us out of reality, and we're not wanting to face reality. We're not wanting to face relationships because at this point it's just too hard. So see, it's like we're running away from it. And I definitely see that in the romantasy genre right now. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just noticing trends, and it is a huge trend right now. And I also just feel like we're very human touch depleted. Like we don't know how to. Humans need physical touch, and I'm not saying that like in a creepy way, but we are very physical beings. So when nobody knows how to have a relationship, and I'm not even just talking about in like romance, I'm just talking about in general too. But then we get like these outlandish ideas of some of these books, like the 50 Shades of Grey and some of these other books that I've heard about, where it's like, okay, if a man actually like did that to you, you would be absolutely terrified and horrified. Like this kind of fantasy realm of almost kind of rape and stuff, that's to me personally, that's not healthy. I don't find that attractive. I don't want a man that would do some of the stuff that these men are doing to these women in these books. I don't know why that's like a thing right now, but it is. So it's like really unhealthy relationships. And sorry, the reason I bring that up is just because we went into Barnes & Noble yesterday, and what is literally covering practically every shelf everywhere? Romantasy books. Which, great. Some of them I like, but and this is literally just my personal opinion, so it literally means nothing, but I like more plot versus romance. And some of these, it's like every couple scenes, they're like getting down and dirty, and you're like, I'm happy for you that you have such a like connected relationship like that, but maybe I just don't want to hear all the details, you know? And so, anywho, but read what you want to read, you know? I'm just saying from like a psychology perspective of some of these characters and some of the stuff that like we're starting to say is okay, it's a little bit concerning. So as just reading the novel for the sake of reading it, fine, you know, but if you're reading it and thinking that that's like a safe, good relationship, that might be where it's a little bit concerning. Otherwise, read whatever you want. Okay, also in this phase, if you're kind of more of the flight mechanism, this is where you get some of the toxic positivity, just because you can't handle like conflict. You can't handle people not getting along. Like you'd rather just be like just put the shield up, everything's great, everything's dandy, everything's wonderful in life, you know, the whole well, it could be worse sentence that I absolutely despise hearing from people. Well, yes, that could be true. That's completely devaluing somebody's situation that they're going through. And everybody has different levels of crap that they have to handle in their life. And sometimes, while to you, whatever that person is going through may not seem like a lot, to them it could be earth-shattering. So it's like saying that instantly tells them, oh, well, you don't actually care about what I'm going through. So I do not like that sentence. That's me personally, because yes, I know other people have it worse. I totally understand that. But for me going through this moment right now, I need some support. So, hey, do you just need a listening ear? You know, but don't pretty much devalue what they're going through. I just don't care for that at all. So, yeah, you escape into nostalgia here. You escape into fantasy. You can even become suicidal here. So, and I'm not saying, like, again, I'm not saying that to scare people. I'm just saying these energies are very, 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 very strong. And for some, it's going to be incredibly overwhelming to the point where they feel like they can't go on. And even I have, not like suicidal, but you get the feeling of, how much longer do we have here? Because I would really like to go somewhere better, you know, like somewhere that's not this. And so, and that's not legitimately not like I'm fine. My mental health is fine. But that's one of the symptoms too. Like you're just like, okay, kind of ready to like leave, kind of ready to ascend or whatever comes next. We're kind of ready for that. So in this area of kind of the hiding and flighting, you can get the underactivity symptoms, which is like things like OCD and stroke, bone disorders, arthritis, organ failure, addictions, depression, various paralysis and exhaustion can happen here. And in general, my friends who are more in tune have said that our guides are trying to send us more like sleepy energies to kind of help calm us down a bit because it is a really intense time. So next is phase 5. Old structures break down. Things that you thought were really important might just all of a sudden not be anymore. Codependent relationships end. Old methods fail to produce results. Old habits die. Old institutions collapse. So that's what I'm saying. We're all so worried about the government and stuff. This is just their last little hoorah. We're gonna see change. It's gonna be okay. Like, I know it doesn't seem like it's gonna be okay right now, but it's gonna be all right. I promise it's gonna be all right. We just have to get through it. We just have to get through this rough part, stick together, try to handle it the best way that we can. And I know things are unfair. Things have been unfair since the beginning of time. And yes, there are things to be angry about and there are things to get upset about. But just remember, it's gonna get better. At least that's what I've heard and that's what I'm believing. So we're gonna go with it and just do the absolute best that we can. Here you're going to notice more lies, disbelief, hollow stories, boring opportunity, untalented people, artless art, and you may just feel a general sense of disgust. And yes, I have felt some of those things where you just look around and you're like, this is seriously our world that we live in. This is the best humanity could do. It's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. Like, sometimes being a human is disappointing. Like, you're like, we really couldn't have done better. This is how we left our world. This is how we treat each other. Okay. But yeah, so if you're feeling that, this is very normal right now. Very, very normal. And there have been plenty of times I'm just like, this is where we're at. All right. Okay, let's just navigate through this destruction and chaos that is happening. Try to continue to be in a positive mindset and place. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard sometimes. So even this video is going to be conflicting because yes, I see where you're coming from and I totally understand it. And there are things that I feel like I'm constantly, when I'm talking to my parents, like, oh, this is just unfair. This is not how this should be. And they're like, well, it's just the way of the world. I'm like, no, it's not. It shouldn't be like this. I know it's not meant to be like this. So I need to change my battery. So I will be right back. All right, we're gonna start from where we left off. So if you fight in the stage, you may not totally understand who you are or what you can rely on. You may experience other creatures such as like ghosts and angels, and you can experience a lot of spiritual healing here as well. If you give into it, things are going to flow a little bit easier, and you will be able to follow your higher self to the ability that you need to. Phase 6, you finally let go, and you might get a bit of an aha or an enlightenment kind of way about you. Things are going to be much more like simple and spacious, and you're going to have kind of this quiet freedom, and some peace is going to start sinking in here. You may feel a little bit empty here, like a little bit of a floating head, but this is going to turn into relief and joy. In this phase, you may experience a lack of motivation, like you are kind of in like this limbo, and you are going to crave time in nature, and you may ask a lot of questions about yourself and about your life up to this point, and just any decision that you've made. You might just start questioning all of it. You can focus on unconditional love and acceptance, appreciate just beauty here, and the simple pleasures of life. And you also rediscover your childlike innocence, which who doesn't want that back a little bit? In this certain phase, you are going to become naturally more drawn to things like the law of attraction or meditation or anything within the metaphysical realm, spirituality, authenticity, the soul, prayer, blessings, all that kind of stuff is going to be maybe more of an interest to you. When you get into this phase, your life is just going to be more healthy. You're going to be happier. You're going to feel better emotionally and physically, and you'll be able to just create, and you will be successful in whatever you create and succeed. So this is where we're trying to get to. Phase 7, at this point, there's no more disruptions. Everything is going to be positive and an up and up from here. You become full of yourself in the best way, not like egotistical, but you're going to be confident, you're going to know who you are, and you're going to want to spread that to the world, and that's going to be a good thing because you're giving out your talents and your authenticity. And that's always going to be for the greater good. You desire to create something innovative at this point, something that means something. You are enthusiastic and optimistic and faithful, and you are inspired and fully engaged in your destiny. And past and present, the sort of time is going to disappear, which you might already notice sometimes that time is acting a little bit weird. Sometimes it may seem like it's going really fast, like you look at the clock and 5 minutes have gone by, and then you look again and like an hour has gone by in like a very short amount of time. Or there may be days where it literally just feels like it's dragging on to no end. And I had one of those days the other day where it was just like, I felt like we went through a 2-day day in one day, because it just like everything was dragging out forever in a day. So I just had to remind myself to live in the moment and just to go with it, because there was no use getting upset about it. And then phase 8 is you recognize and you have both a realization that you have a personal self as well as a connectiveness and a energy, like a collective self. So a me/us vibe. You want to be responsible for your actions and the way you treat people, because it's going to hurt if you don't, because you realize we are all connected, and what you do to somebody else, you inevitably kind of do to yourself as well. You have an understanding that we are all connected. Like I said, your psychic senses are going to be very activated here, and you can have contact with non-physical beings if you so choose, and it's not going to be like a scary thing. Just another reminder that although some of this sounds really overwhelming and like a lot to handle, the universe is never going to give you anything that you can't handle, and you have spirit teams and guides that are going to help you through this. Even if you aren't aware of them, they're still there for you, and they're going to try to get you through this with as less stress as possible. So just know that you do have this strength and the ability and this power to be able to get through any difficulties that you have to face before we get to this evolved state. So, and lastly, you reach phase 9, which phase 9, you are one with everything, and you can manifest your dreams like that. Like, it's going to be no problem at all. You can materialize and dematerialize things with simply a thought, and everything is instantaneous. So us non-patient people, that'll be great, because you'll just be able to think of something and you'll just be able to create it. You will feel free and unlimited. I can come and go through time and space and beyond as I please, and I can create anything and know anything instantly. That is going to be the realm that we're going to be living in. Now, when exactly that happens, everyone's going through the phases a little bit at a different pace, but collectively we're all going through it. So I don't know. I can't tell you when it's going to happen. I don't know these things, and I don't think anyone truly knows when that moment is going to hit. Supposedly we're supposed to get some kind of warning and go into this like deep golden sleep, so to speak, and then wake up and it's just going to be like this, but I don't know. I don't know. And I'm getting a lot more involved in this, but some of this is still very out there for me. Like, it's not that I don't necessarily believe it, but it's like, oh gosh, because I do see some of the truths happening around, but I'm like, oh, it's a lot to process. It's a lot to process. So anyway, we're going to continue to read this book and do things kind of chapter by chapter. We might group a couple chapters together, but I did talk for a lot longer than I thought I was going to. So we will see. If this is something you're interested in, this book might definitely be something that you want to check out and read, just because I really do feel like it is pretty relevant for our time and our earth and our energies that we're going through right now. So I'm going to end this video here. As always, be kind, stay curious, speak your truth, and I will see you next time for another video. Much love. Bye.